Hey guys, I am here with my friend Carrie Ford. She is another one of the authors from the Invincible Family Project. Your book will not have the band on here. This was literally from the very first one that I got. There it is. It looks like that without the band. Isn't it soft? Isn't
It
it like
is.
the
I was really impressed.
softest book? You just want to like hug it. But for many reasons, it's soft, and then also it's got a lot of great content in it. So one of the chapters is from Carrie here, and so Carrie, what I want for you to do is just to kind of break down who you were at the beginning of your chapter, so people understand really where you were coming from with that.
Sure, I would love to. Um, you know, when I first decided to be a part of this, it's because I wanted people to understand that they're not alone. And I don't think I'm unique or unusual in the way that I was feeling. Here I was, a wife and a mother of two littles, and I was a teacher, and I tried all these different side hustles. But at the end of the day, I would wake up every morning, look in the mirror, and go, "Is this it? Is this all there is to life? Is this all there's ever going to be? I know I was created for more. I know that I can do more. I know I've always known that. And so I felt like I was always on this hamster wheel of trying to find like the breakthrough, the what's next, the thing that's going to help me to use the gifts and the talents that I know that I have, but I just never could put it together into something that was, I don't know, that was filling me. That was, and I'll be honest, I have suffered most of my life from my earliest childhood memories on with self-worth issues, with depression, clinical depression. I was in counseling on medication. There were many times, and the first one was as a teenager, where I felt like complete loss of hope, which then leads to thoughts of suicide, which then leads to plans for suicide, which then leads to God showing up in big ways. And so he always shows up in these huge ways with me, but it was being able to take that miracle of him showing up and then do something with it. So to me, there's nothing more heartbreaking than when God shows up for you and then you don't know what to do with it. And so that's where I was really at the beginning of this chapter, in a job where I was completely burned out, but I loved. It also was kind of a, right, I mean, as a teacher, and I had, 200 plus students that I was reaching every single, week. And it was hard to justify walking away from that. But also knowing that I was dying inside. And, my husband, God bless him, I went to him and I said, "I have to leave this job." And he's like, "Good. They don't value you. They don't appreciate you." And so I was like, thank God he supports me. But then his next sentence wrecked me. And that was not his desire. That was not his clue. But he said, "Leave. Don't stay there. You deserve better. However, the next job you get, could you make more money? Because I really need you to step up for this one." Which I heard him saying, everything that you've done to lead you to this place of burnout was for nothing. And it
Oh,
was from that place that I had to try to dig and dig and dig. So,
I heard a couple of important things in just those 2 minutes that you were talking. Um, the very first thing that I heard that was super, super important, or it was the second thing, but it's probably the most important thing, is when you said what your husband said, and then you said why am I crying? What you heard.
right.
So it's so important just to even be able to have that amount of discernment to
Yeah.
be able to say, he may not have meant this is what I heard, and this is how that made me feel, right?
Yep.
And because of how it made me feel, now this set the trajectory for XYZ, right?
Yeah.
And then to be able to say, like, this is what I heard. I don't believe that that's really what his intention was, but this is what I heard. And that there's so much actual growth inside that statement that, like, I hope that people that heard that don't just like skip past it and say, okay, that's part of her story, and then like keep moving on. You need to sit in that for a moment just to be able to realize, like, so the people that are saying things to me that are maybe triggering me in negative ways, did they mean that? or is that just what I heard? Right? Or is that what did that open a wound for me, which then the wound spoke, right? Instead of like what they actually said, which is just so like that's just I feel like you could do a whole thing inside of that. And then in addition to that, I want for people, teachers, I'm going to say this, I want for teachers to be able to listen to this and understand that you were guided to be a teacher for a reason,
Mhm.
but it doesn't necessarily mean that you stay teaching in order to fulfill that ministry or that mission or that reason you were drawn to teaching. Sometimes you're drawn to teaching because you're like, I want I want to help the future generations, right? I want to be involved in their lives. And Carrie, I know that that's you, to your heart, to your core. I want to be involved in their lives. I want to be able to make a difference for them. And then when you were younger and going to college, you were like, teacher is the way to that. Because when we're younger, our mind is that we don't realize as much as we do when we get older. Where we're like, okay, well, there's this path and this path and this path, and it's kind of pretty minimal on there's this thing that you want to do. All right, here are the options you have, like when you go to school and stuff, here are the options you have to get to that place that you want to go. And it starts to get very, narrow whenever you're wanting to work with kids. Okay, well, you've got one of these few options. And then whenever you've been doing it for a while, I feel like there are teachers that beat themselves up because they don't want to see that path through, when really, what do you think about this and what do you have to say about this, Carrie? Where really that path got you to another set of paths. Like, what are your thoughts around that? I would love to hear, just from a teacher, I would love to hear your thoughts around that.
Oh, sure. And you're so right. I mean, most of us became teachers because we wanted to affect the future generations. And for me, I didn't want any child to sit in that place of hopelessness, or which stems from feeling unseen, unheard, and unvalued.
Right.
It's unvalued. I don't even know if that's right, but you know what I mean, right?
I do know what you mean, yeah.
So it's I didn't want anyone to have to stay in that place, but I had such a convoluted route to get to that classroom. And I've been a missionary for over 30 years, and I was able to go into classrooms in over 20 different countries. And so that gave me such a view that these issues that our children are dealing with in our country right now, it's universal. It is global. Women have self-esteem issues. Children feel unheard and unseen in every country I've been to. And so for me, it was a passion. It was just an extension of my mission field. Sometimes my mission field is a third world country, sometimes it's a classroom. But when I came out of that, I knew that I didn't want to go back to a place where I couldn't necessarily make the same impact that I wanted to, because more and more, the longer I was in the classroom, the more my hands were tied.
Yeah.
And the more things I couldn't say, the more things I couldn't do. And the biggest thing that I couldn't do is hold children accountable for behavior, which teaches them how to be good humans. And, forget the fact that I want them all to know Jesus. That's separate. You can't do that either. But,
Right.
it's just, so yes, I agree. But so many of my friends who are teachers now have lost their passion. And it's heartbreaking to me,
Yeah.
that they have lost that passion, because it's there,
Ugh.
it's buried. They just have to find it again.
I just love your chapter in this book. You guys, whenever you grab it, go straight to Carrie's chapter, read it, let it sit with you, let it marinate. That's like there are certain things that I really think we need to meditate over words. And I think that her chapter is definitely one of those things, you guys. Whenever you read it, let it kind of wash over you. Don't let it just be, okay, I'm done with that chapter, I move on to the next chapter. I would say in this book, just don't do that at all anyway, right? What you're experiencing is you're experiencing different families that are restructuring what life looks like for them. And that's important for everybody out there. Sometimes it's financial, sometimes it's freedom, sometimes it's just ignoring that there's even a box to begin with. There's like no box. So like it's really just, I want you to be able to redefine your own how you show up in the world based on what you're seeing other people do, because it literally is what people are doing. Okay, guys. So whenever you grab the book, the link is in the description of the video. Jump to Carrie's chapter. Carrie, thank you so much for spending time with me today and just doing what you're doing. I appreciate you so doggone much.
Oh, and thank you. Thanks for having me. And I appreciated being a part of this project, number one, but also just the impact that it's had since we've been working together to
Yeah.
help me to show up the way that I want to based on that chapter. So thank you so
There
much.
it is. See you guys later. Love you. Bye bye.
Bye.